I noticed Marcus Whitfield's coffee cup on my first day at Haverton Analytics. Not the cup itself, but the symbol etched into the ceramic, a sigil I hadn't seen since my grandmother's grimoire. Most people wouldn't recognize it. Most people couldn't see it at all. But I'd spent 20 years hiding what I was, and I knew a working when I saw one. Marcus was the new chief strategy officer, hired 3 months before I arrived as a senior data analyst. He was 42, tall, with silver temples and the kind of smile that made executives open their wallets. Within weeks, he'd reorganized 3 departments, secured a $12 million investment round, and convinced the CEO to double his consulting budget. Everyone called him a genius. A visionary. The man who would take Haverton from mid-tier to industry leader. I called him what he was, dangerous. My name is Sarah Chen. I'm 36 years old. I have a master's degree in data science from Stanford, 8 years of corporate experience, and a bloodline that traces back to the Tang dynasty practitioners who could read fortune in oracle bones and bind spirits with written word. I don't advertise that last part on LinkedIn. You learn early that the mundane world doesn't react well to hedge witches in their quarterly reviews. So I keep my head down, my crystals in my desk drawer, and my wards refreshed weekly. I came to Haverton for a quiet job analyzing consumer trends. Instead, I found a wizard playing corporate games with people's lives. The first incident happened in week 2. Jennifer Oakes, the HR director, called an emergency meeting about the intern program. Jennifer had run that program for 6 years, it was her baby, her pride. But Marcus suggested optimizing the selection criteria during a leadership sync, and suddenly Jennifer was nodding along, agreeing to cut the program budget by 60% and eliminate the mentorship component she'd personally designed. I watched her eyes during that meeting. They had that distant, glassy quality. Like she was underwater. Jennifer seems off, I mentioned to Dev, my cubicle neighbor, after the meeting. Dev shrugged. He was 28, perpetually caffeinated, obsessed with mechanical keyboards. Marcus has that effect on people. It's like charisma or whatever. My girlfriend says it's his executive presence. Charisma. Sure. That's what we call it now. The second incident was subtler. Marcus started a new initiative called Radical Transparency, weekly one-on-ones where he'd review everyone's work with constructive feedback. People started changing after those meetings. Tom from engineering stopped pushing back on unrealistic deadlines. Priya from marketing started working weekends without complaint. Rachel from finance, who'd been gunning for a promotion, suddenly withdrew her application and recommended Marcus's external consultant instead. I declined my first 3 one-on-one invitations. Scheduling conflicts. Family emergency. Migraine. Marcus's assistant, Emma, kept rebooking. She had that same underwater look in her eyes now. I knew what he was doing. Compulsion work, probably. Subtle stuff, woven into conversation, suggestion spells triggered by specific phrases, maybe a minor glamour to make people more agreeable. My grandmother used to say the worst practitioners were the ones who thought they were helping. They're improving efficiency, they'd say. Making people reach their potential. They never asked if anyone consented to having their mind rearranged. By month 2, Marcus had eliminated the diversity committee, outsourced customer service to a firm that paid poverty wages, and convinced the CEO to implement a ranking system where the bottom 10% of performers would be automatically fired each quarter. He called it performance optimization. I called it a blood sacrifice, a different kind than the old practitioners used, but just as cruel. I started watching him carefully. Really watching. The kind of watching you do when you're looking for the seams in someone's working. Marcus never drank water. Only black coffee, from that sigil-marked cup. He never ate lunch at his desk, always left the building for exactly 47 minutes. He never took video calls after sunset, always insisting on phone only after 6 p.m. And he never, ever shook hands. Always a shoulder clasp, a friendly wave, but never skin-to-skin contact. Classic practitioner tells. He was maintaining something. Some working that required regular renewal, specific timing, careful boundaries. The third incident made it personal. Dev came to work on a Tuesday morning and started clearing out his desk. His hands were shaking. His eyes were red. What happened? I asked. One-on-one with Marcus yesterday. Dev's voice was flat. He helped me realize I wasn't passionate about this work. That I was holding the team back. That I should resign before I did more damage. Dev, you love this job. You've been here 4 years. Yeah, well. Marcus showed me the data. My velocity metrics, my code review comments. He's right. I'm not good enough. Dev wouldn't meet my eyes. I already signed the resignation letter. HR is processing it now. I watched him pack his mechanical keyboard, his stupid collection of rubber ducks, his photo of him and his girlfriend at Comic-Con. He moved like a puppet with half-cut strings. That's when I decided Marcus Whitfield needed to meet a different kind of consultant. I went home that night and opened my grandmother's grimoire for the first time in 3 years. The pages still smelled like sandalwood and sulfur. I'd promised myself I was done with this. That I'd be normal, mundane, safely corporate. But some promises break themselves. The book fell open to a chapter on counterworkings and unraveling. My grandmother's handwriting in the margins, every spell has a weakness. Find the anchor. Break the chain. Free the bound. She'd been a librarian in Sacramento and had helped 3 women escape a practitioner who'd been running a self-improvement seminar in the 1980s. She understood that magic in the wrong hands was just another form of control. Another way to take people's choices and call it help. I started documenting everything. Not for HR, what was I going to say? I think Marcus is magically compelling employees. I documented for myself. Patterns. Timings. Who he met with and when. How long his influence lasted. Who recovered and who stayed under. Jennifer eventually snapped out of it, about 6 weeks after their last one-on-one. She looked confused when I asked about the intern program cuts. Did I really agree to that? That's not. God, why did I think that was a good idea? So the compulsion faded. That was useful information. It meant he had to maintain it, refresh it, keep people in his orbit. It wasn't permanent. Yet. But Marcus was getting stronger. Or bolder. Probably both. At the Q3 all-hands meeting, he presented a restructuring proposal that would eliminate 30 jobs and redistribute the work to remaining employees with no additional compensation. The room should have erupted. Instead, people nodded. Applauded. The CEO called it visionary thinking. I didn't applaud. I sat in the back and watched Marcus's face as he scanned the crowd. His eyes caught mine. For just a second, something flickered behind them. Something old and cold and absolutely certain of its power. He smiled at me. Friendly. Inviting. After the meeting, Emma appeared at my desk with another one-on-one invitation. Marcus really wants to connect with you, Sarah. He's noticed your work. He thinks you have real potential. The appointment was scheduled for Thursday at 4 p.m. His office. Door closed. I accepted. I spent Wednesday night preparing. Not the kind of preparation HR would recognize. I drew wards on the inside of my blazer lining in silver ink. Hematite stones in my pockets for grounding. A sprig of rosemary behind my ear, glamored to look like a hair clip. And I wrote 3 words on my left palm in characters my grandmother taught me, then covered them with foundation. Insurance. The kind you hope you won't need. I didn't sleep. I watched the moon set and thought about all the ways practitioners justify what they do. Efficiency. Success. Reaching potential. All just words for stripping away someone's will and calling it leadership. Thursday at 4 p.m., I knocked on Marcus's door. Sarah. Come in, come in. He stood, all practiced warmth, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. That cup sat next to his keyboard, still steaming. The sigil seemed to pulse in my peripheral vision. "I've been wanting to talk with you. You've been here almost 3 months now, but we haven't really connected." I sat. Kept my hands in my lap. Kept my expression pleasant and professional. "You're talented," Marcus continued. "Your data analysis on the Consumer Trends project was exceptional. But I sense you're holding back. Not reaching your full potential. I'd like to help you break through whatever's limiting you." His voice had that quality. The one that made people agreeable. The one that made them nod and smile and reshape themselves into whatever he needed. I felt it pressing against my wards like water against a dam. "That's kind of you," I said carefully. "I have a sense about people, Sarah. A gift, really. I can see what they need before they see it themselves." He leaned forward. "You need to stop being so cautious. So defended. You need to trust the process. Trust me. I can help you achieve things you never imagined." The compulsion rolled off him in waves. I felt my wards heating up, the silver ink burning against my skin. He was strong. Stronger than I'd expected. This wasn't hedge-witch parlor tricks. This was trained, disciplined, probably decades of practice. "What exactly would that help look like?" I asked. Marcus smiled. "First, we'd work on your tendency to question authority. I've noticed you're skeptical of the restructuring. That kind of resistance holds teams back. Second, we'd address your isolation. You keep to yourself too much. Don't build relationships. Don't let people in." His eyes locked on mine. "Starting with me. Let me in, Sarah. Let me help you." The air between us thickened. I felt the spell coiling, ready to strike. This was the moment. The invitation. The point where people's defenses crumbled and they welcomed the working in. Instead, I smiled back. "No," I said. Marcus blinked. "I'm sorry?" I said no. "Thank you for the offer, but I'm not interested in being helped." Something shifted in his expression. The friendly mask slipped half an inch. "Sarah, I don't think you understand. This isn't really optional. Everyone on the leadership track goes through this process. It's how we build a cohesive, high-performing culture. I'm not on the leadership track. I'm a senior data analyst. I analyze data. I don't need my personality restructured to do that effectively." The mask slipped further. His voice cooled. "You're making a mistake." "Maybe. But it's my mistake to make." I stood. Turned toward the door. "Sit down." His voice cracked like a whip. Pure command, pure magical force behind it. My wards flared. The rosemary behind my ear burst into invisible flame. Every protection I'd woven screamed against the assault. But I stayed standing. I turned back. Looked at him directly. "You're going to want to be more careful with that," I said quietly. "Compulsion spells leave traces. Especially on people who know what to look for." Marcus went very, very still. "I don't know what you think you're." "The sigil on your cup is for sustained charisma enhancement, Nordic tradition, probably 10th century working. The 47-minute lunches are for renewal rituals. No video calls after sunset because screens reflect auras and yours would show the working. No handshakes because touch can transfer intent both ways and you can't risk feedback." I smiled. It wasn't friendly. Did I miss anything? For a long moment, we just looked at each other. Two practitioners in a corporate office, pretending we hadn't spent years hiding what we were. Then Marcus laughed. It was genuine. Surprised. Almost delighted. "Well. Fuck." He sat back in his chair. "How long have you known?" "Since day one." "The cup gave you away." "Sloppy of me." He studied me with new interest. What are you? The words feel Eastern, but there's something else woven in. Does it matter? It might. If you're planning to make trouble. I'm planning to do my job. Analyze data. Cash my paycheck. Stay out of your way. I met his eyes. As long as you stay out of mine. Marcus considered this. Then nodded slowly. I can respect professional courtesy. We both have our methods. No reason to interfere with each other. He picked up his cup, sipped. Though I'm curious what you think I'm doing that's so terrible. I'm helping people. Making this company more successful. Everyone benefits. You're stripping away people's free will and calling it professional development. I'm removing their self-imposed limitations. Helping them achieve more than they thought possible. Is that so different from therapy? From coaching? Therapy doesn't rewire your brain without consent. Doesn't it? Marcus smiled. Every HR training, every performance review, every corporate culture initiative, they're all designed to modify behavior. To make people more compliant, more productive, more aligned with company values. I'm just more efficient at it. More honest. You make people quit jobs they love. You make them betray their own values. You make them into puppets. I make them into winners. High performers. People who don't waste their potential on doubt and resistance. He stood, came around the desk. Stopped just outside the range of my wards. You could be one of them, Sarah. With your gifts and my methods, you could run this company in 5 years. We could reshape the entire industry. Think of the efficiency. The success. At what cost? Cost? Marcus laughed. This is the corporate world, Sarah. Everyone's already paying the cost. At least my way, they're happy about it. They think they're reaching their potential. They're grateful. Is that worse than the alternative? Than the grinding misery of people slowly breaking themselves to meet arbitrary metrics? He wasn't entirely wrong. That was the worst part. The corporate world did break people. Did strip away parts of themselves. Did reward compliance and punish authenticity. But there was a difference between a system people could resist and one they couldn't. A difference between exploitation you could fight and magic you couldn't see. Marcus had convinced himself he was helping. That efficiency justified everything. He'd probably been telling himself that story for so long he believed it. I'm not interested, I said again. Then we have a problem. The temperature in the room dropped 5 degrees. The lights dimmed. Marcus's friendly mask was completely gone now. What looked back at me was cold, uncertain, and utterly ruthless. I can't have someone like you wandering around, aware of what I'm doing, potentially interfering. That's a liability I can't accept. His hand moved toward his desk drawer. So we need to come to an understanding. Either you join me, or what? I interrupted. You'll compel me? Go ahead and try. He did. The spell hit like a freight train. Pure domination, no subtlety, no gentle suggestion. Just raw magical force trying to crack me open and remake me from the inside. My wards shrieked. The hematite stones in my pockets shattered. The silver ink on my blazer started to smoke. But I'd been preparing for this my entire life. I spoke the 3 words written on my palm. The characters flared white-hot, burning through the foundation. A counterworking my grandmother had perfected over 40 years. Not an attack. Not a defense. Just reflection. Marcus's spell hit my working and bounced back at him doubled. Tripled. Every ounce of compulsion, every thread of domination, every atom of will-breaking force crashed into him with the weight of his own intentions. He staggered. His eyes went wide. For just a second, I saw him experience what he'd been doing to everyone else. Felt his own magic trying to strip away his will, his choices, his self. Then it shattered. The feedback broke his working like safety glass. Every spell he'd woven into every employee snapped at once. Every compulsion released. Every thread of influence cut. Somewhere in the building, Jennifer Oakes gasped and remembered why she'd loved that intern program. Tom in engineering stopped mid-email and wondered why the hell he'd agreed to that deadline. Priya in marketing looked at her weekend calendar and felt a surge of rage. Rachel in finance pulled up her promotion application and hit submit again, fingers shaking. And Dev was probably standing in his apartment, staring at the resignation letter, wondering what the fuck he'd been thinking. Marcus fell back against his desk. His coffee cup, the one with the sigil, tipped over, black liquid spreading across his papers. The sigil cracked down the middle with an audible snap. You. He couldn't seem to finish the sentence. He looked at me like I was something impossible. Something that shouldn't exist in his carefully controlled world. What did you do? Broke your anchor. Every spell needs one. Yours was the cup, pretty basic, honestly. You were maintaining everything through it. Renewal rituals at lunch, daily reinforcement, probably a blood binding when you first enchanted it. Break the anchor, break the working. I picked up my bag. You should have been more careful about who you tried to compel. Some people push back. The company will notice. They'll know something changed. They'll investigate. They'll notice people are suddenly questioning your restructuring plan. They'll notice the bottom 10% firing idea sounds insane without your influence backing it. They'll notice Jennifer's fighting to restore the intern program and Tom's pushing back on timelines and Rachel's filing complaints about your external consultant. I opened the door. You're about to have a very bad quarter, Marcus. The mundane way. No magic required. Just 30 employees who suddenly remember they don't have to obey you. His face went white. Then red. You have no idea what you've done. The company needs my guidance. My vision. Without it, they'll fail. Then they'll fail on their own terms. Not yours. I walked out. Didn't look back. Behind me, I heard Marcus scrambling for his phone. Trying to call the CEO, trying to salvage something. But his voice had lost that quality. That weight. He was just a man now. Just a consultant with a suddenly skeptical client base. I stopped by Dev's cube on my way out. Left a note on his keyboard, "You're good enough." Always were. Sarah. Then I went home, burned my grandmother's grimoire pages in the sink, and made tea. My hands were steady. The wards on my blazer had burned through, leaving silver scorch marks on the lining. I'd need to replace it. Small price. I sat by the window and watched the sun set over the city, thinking about all the practitioners who convinced themselves that control was kindness. That stripping away someone's will was helping them reach their potential. Marcus had been good at what he did. Skilled. Disciplined. Powerful. But he'd made the classic mistake, he'd assumed everyone else was defenseless. That the mundane world was full of sheep waiting to be guided. He'd forgotten that some people spend their whole lives learning to recognize predators. Learning to push back. Learning to say no with enough force to shatter mountains. The next morning, Marcus's resignation was announced via email. Pursuing other opportunities, the HR blast said. Effective immediately. I never saw him again. But sometimes, late at night when I'm alone in the office, I notice things. Little things. A manager who seems too persuasive. A colleague whose suggestions are always followed. An intern who has eyes like deep water. And I watch. I document. I prepare. Because the corporate world is full of practitioners who think efficiency justifies everything. Who think success excuses any method. Who think they're helping while they're really just building prettier cages. But some of us remember that everyone deserves the right to say no. Even in the quarterly review. I opened my laptop and got back to work, analyzing data, cashing my paycheck, staying quiet. Just another corporate drone. Just another face in the crowd. Just a hedge which who'd learned how to push back. The wards on my new blazer were already drawn in silver ink, drying in the lining. Hematite stone sat in my desk drawer next to my lip gloss and spare phone charger. And in my bag, wrapped in silk, sat 3 pages carefully copied from my grandmother's grimoire. Insurance. The kind you hope you won't need. But keep close anyway. Just in case.